I would like to introduce our friend Corwyn. He was able to give us a game funeral presentation on all of the cool prototypes that he was working on in Unreal. And this time, he is going to tell us a little bit about how to work with modding and hacking in games, and how people are doing it, what the kind of little bit of the history is like, and how you might be able to get into it yourself. So please, a round of applause for our friend Corwyn.
Hi, my name is Corwyn Prichard. I've been developing games for about 5 years now using Unreal Engine 4, but before I was making games of my own, I was actually modding games by other people. Today I want to talk to you guys about game modding, why I think it's cool, accessible, easy, and a good jumping off point into learning game development skills. Part 1. Intro to Mods. So I should probably start by saying what a game mod actually is. Mod is just a broad umbrella term used to describe any modification to a piece of software. Mods come in many shapes and sizes, from files that you drop into the folders and directories of computer games to patches that you can apply to the game files themselves. Game modding is a colorful and diverse phenomenon that's been going on for longer than you might think. Games from the iconic Miss Pac-Man and Counter-Strike to well-received indie games like The Killing Floor, Dear Esther, and The Stanley Parable all got their start as third-party mods of pre-existing games. There are tons of types of mods out there, including fan translations, reskins, custom levels and music, graphics replacements like this incredible Gilmore Girls themed Fire Emblem mod by PIGSquad's very own Marlo Doby. There are total conversion mods in which modders replace virtually all the base game's assets to create something new, quality of life mods that change parts of a game that make it a little more fun to play, optimizations to make games run better, randomizers which jumble up elements of familiar games to deliver a brand new experience, or even multiplayer support for games that didn't used to have it. And I haven't even covered everything here. There's a ton of stuff out there. Pretty much any change you can think to make to a game is possible with enough work. But you usually won't have to start from scratch, because plenty of modders produce modding tools. Modding tools are exactly what they sound like. They are tools made specifically for editing pre-existing games. There are loads of modding tools out there, some of which actually get distributed by the creators of the original game. For instance, Valve released their Source SDK, which they used to develop some of their most iconic titles, for free to the public, leading to the development of some truly excellent standalone Source games from indie developers like Neo Tokyo, Beginner's Guide, Stanley Parable, and Alien Swarm. Some companies also release more casual level editors, like those included with Super Mario Maker or Super Smash Bros., though these don't typically fall under the category of modding tools. One common form that mods come in is called a ROM hack. A ROM is a digital copy of a game that can be run on a computer using a program called an emulator, which acts like a digital version of a video game console. Some modding tools can be used to edit and change the contents of a game ROM, such as level editors, hex editors, and more. When a modder creates a mod of a ROM like this, it's called a ROM hack. Part 2. Why make a mod? There are a ton of great reasons to get into game modding. For one, it's a much easier way to start learning game development skills without having to build a game from scratch. Oh no, not that scratch. There are tons of great, accessible tools out there for creating your own games, like Unity, Unreal Engine 4, Scratch, Pico 8. You could say that it's easier now to make a game than it ever has been before, but this can make it difficult to actually know where to start. The blank slate of starting a game project from scratch creates infinite possibilities, which can actually be a huge creative hurdle. Modding a pre-existing game allows you to work with a set of tools that already exist, and gives you the chance to learn about the game that you're modding in the process. You get to see under the hood of a professionally made game, and learn how to create code and assets that work to the specifications of that game. Modding can give you a lot of insight into games that you love, and how they work. And you can use game modding as a lens to practice any facet of game development that you want to learn. Things like level design, asset creation, programming. You could even try your hand at writing or translation or localization. Pretty much any game dev discipline you can think of can be explored through game modding. And I'm not just making stuff up here. A lot of pros got their start through modding. General Computer Corporation originally began Ms. Pac-Man as an enhancement kit for Pac-Man cabinets called Crazy Otto. GCC eventually sold the idea to Midway, the North American distributors of Pac-Man, and worked with them to develop it as an official sequel. Min Lee and Jess Cliff developed the original Counter-Strike using Valve's GoldSource SDK, eventually being hired on by Valve to develop Counter-Strike as an official Valve title. And if it sounds like I'm just cherry-picking outliers here, Michael Shilliday, an artist who I started following for his work on Team Fortress 2 mods, now spends his time developing his own games and creating high-quality game assets for the Steam Workshop. Game modding can be a great jumping-off point for learning the skills necessary to start a career in game development. Part 3. Legal stuff. While I do encourage people to check out the world of game modding, I'd be remiss not to mention that modding tends to occupy something of a legal gray area. But really that's less scary than it sounds. Take ROM hacking, for example. ROM files of games are illegal to distribute, but hacking tools and emulators are actually legal to distribute. The way most people distribute the ROM hacks themselves is as a patch file that the user then applies to a ROM in their possession. This makes it so that ROM hacking sites can distribute patches without actually distributing any illegal software. However, you can see how this might rub intellectual property owners the wrong way. And copyright law is by no means black and white. While the mod you're making may technically be legal, you're never 100% safe from receiving a cease and desist letter, which is about as bad as you could expect to get working on a mod. A cease and desist letter, or C&D for short, is a letter from a party asking that you stop whatever it is that you're doing, or they may proceed with legal action. It's fairly uncommon, and it's unlikely that it'll happen to you, but it is a possibility. My best suggestion for staying out of that kind of trouble is to think ahead. Study how the rights holders of the game that you're modding usually react to mods of their games, and see if they've done this kind of thing before. Every intellectual property owner has a different attitude about people modding their games, so it helps to know what precedent they've set with mods in the past. But if the idea of getting on a company's bad side is a major turnoff for you, know that there are also official channels for creating mods, like the Steam Workshop, where Valve encourages people to upload user-created mods for associated games. If you're thinking about getting into creating mods for a specific game, I suggest getting into the community and asking around about the culture around that kind of thing. Part 4. The Future! And also some resources. Game modding continues to grow and evolve every day. Mods are under development as we speak for classic games, and programmers continue to develop new tools and crack the code of legendary game titles. It's a vibrant and ever-changing community committed to enjoying games in new and interesting ways. I look forward to seeing what you create. Thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you to PIGSquad for having me, and I hope everybody's doing well. Also, special thanks go out to Michael Shilliday for providing art for use on the slide about him in this presentation, and to Fusoya and Noga for creating incredible mod tools that helped get me into this stuff in the first place. If you want to talk more about mods, feel free to get in touch with me on social media. I've put my links on screen right here. If you follow that Pastebin link at the bottom, it'll include links to different communities and cool tools for getting started with modding. Take it easy.
All right, thank you so much, Corwyn. That was great. Yeah, that was the special PIGSquad treatment coming in as the Super Mario World intro that I was talking about. Super funny. Corwyn is going to share the link for that Pastebin file in the chat here if anybody wants to check it out. If anybody has any questions, please let us know. A couple of people were asking about if we know of games that were created with modding being the intended business plan. I think that kind of goes back and forth. It definitely, Corwyn provided a lot of examples of ways that engines were able to become games, and I actually don't know if games, something like Rust or something like that was created. I mean, I believe Rust is technically a mod, but then I know that a lot of people use it for modding, so and I guess Gary's mod is probably one of the number one like apps that somebody created for the sake of being modded into other things. Yeah, I agree with chat here that Beat Saber would not be what it is without modding. I was actually just talking to somebody the other day about how I wish there were more songs in the base version without modding, which is harder to do on the Oculus than the Vive. So yeah, agreed. It's a really interesting kind of feel to be in, and again, looking at something like the cease and desist not happening often, but there's also often a couple of really interesting things that pop up, especially that kind of a big ROM cleanse that happened over the course of a bunch of archive websites. I think it was 2 years ago or something like that, which makes it hard to play those classic games and or get those classic games to apply a patch file so that you can play ROMs, so you can play hacks. Lots of interesting stuff going on. Oh, cool, yeah, and Corwyn's talking about how there's some SDKs that are all set up for making and selling standalone games, like the King's Field Sword of Moonlight tool, which I don't know about. And I know that when Marla was making that Fire Emblem Gilmore Girls game that Corwyn showed off briefly, I was able to look at the mod tools for that, and it's really interesting. It's really cool to be able to not only see how easy or difficult it is to make certain things based on those classic games, but it's also really cool to be able to see what tools are available. It's also really cool to kind of like take a step back and dissect some of your favorite games and see like what the logic was behind certain things, or what was and was not possible. Oh yeah, and she says in chat here that she used Fire Emblem Builder GBA or FE Builder GBA, and I know she went on the Discord and got a lot of advice for just how to get started. So, yeah, I think I would very much compare it to what's it called? Speedrunning communities, where there are a lot of speedrunning communities that will have different numbers of resources for being able to support certain games in certain ways. So yeah, lots of cool stuff there. Sweet. Thank you so much, Corwyn.